Hello and welcome to the Best Football Show. I am Brian Baldinger at Baldy NFL across all of the social media platforms, and you can listen to this free show, show just by downloading a free Odyssey app and then liking, subscribe to it, comment on it, tell your friends about it. We could grow this audience. But, in this dead spot that we're in right now, we've been breaking down division by division. We've done the NFC East. I want to do the AFC West, since the teams that were in Super Bowl 59 last year resided in those two divisions. So the AFC West with Kansas City, the Chargers, the Broncos, and the Raiders. To me, right now, based on what we saw last year and what has happened this offseason, it looks to be the most competitive division in all of football, even though the Chiefs last year basically went off to a 15-1 record, sat their starters in Week 18. Denver blew them out 38-0. They got in the playoffs. The Chiefs finished 15-2. It was an unbelievable season, considering the offense seemed stuck in the mud for much of the year. But the Chiefs have owned this division. I'm forgetting now. I believe they've won it either 8 or 9 years in a row. I know every year, at least since Patrick Mahomes has taken over the starting duties, they have won the division. But it does look like it's bunched up a little bit last year. And what we see, honestly, is just the difference that great coaches make. We saw the Chargers go to the playoffs last year with Jim Harbaugh at the helm. They went 11-6. And they looked like a good football team for much of the year. Now, that playoff loss last year to the Houston Texans was not pretty. We'll get into that. And then the Broncos with the rookie quarterback, a second-year head coach in Sean Payton, got to the playoffs with a 10-7 record. Battled Buffalo tough in that game. To be honest with you, Josh Allen made some incredible plays. And then bringing up the rear is the Raiders, who went 4-13. And it was just a really disappointing season all the way around. And there was a coaching change. So Pete Carroll now comes on board. So you think about this division. Andy Reid, the winningest active coach in all of football, and in distance, and at least in legitimate distance, to set the all-time record of wins that Don Shula has. And then you look at Jim Harbaugh and his peerless coaching record. San Diego, Stanford, San Francisco, Michigan, and now the Chargers. I mean, won everywhere that he's been. And then you look at what Sean Payton is doing and has done, with the moribund New Orleans Saints franchise, a Hall of Fame quarterback in Drew Brees. What he did to that franchise just resurrected him. And now he's doing the same thing to a Denver franchise that had not been to the playoffs since Peyton Manning was the quarterback. And we all know all the different the carousel that has spun at that position, quarterback position, since they drafted Bo Nix and Peyton Manning departed. There's a big gap in between of a lot of different starters and guys that just weren't cut out to lead the Denver Broncos. And now we have the Las Vegas Raiders. So let's just look at it, because the Chiefs are going to be the favorite to win it again. The combination of Patrick Mahomes along with Andy Reid is, it's a great combination. There's a great respect factor between those two. There's a constant learning. I've talked to Patrick Mahomes on many occasions about what the playbook looks that week and how it can change from week to week, depending on what Andy sees, who's healthy, who they're going up against, what the matchup is, and how his offense can change week to week with the game planning that they do. So we look at this Chiefs team, and the one weakness, it showed up in the Super Bowl when they were losing 34-0. They could not cross midfield for the entire first half and didn't score until 34 seconds to go in the third quarter, and being down 34-0. The one glaring weakness was the offensive line. And just the patchwork that they did, Caliendo coming in at left guard, a free agent last year, and then Joe Thuney going out to left tackle. It was a Band-Aid, and Joe Thuney played great and should be commended for what he did. But in the Super Bowl, it was not a pretty sight. Patrick Mahomes running for his life. The Eagles never blitzed one time the entire day, and they were able to get pressure on Patrick Mahomes. So they went out with the first pick, and they drafted Josh Simmons out of Ohio State. They're going to move Suamatatia into left guard, last year's pick. This is the fourth year in a row they've drafted a left tackle, starting with bringing in Donovan Smith as a free agent. So it's been a revolving door. They're trying to get it right. And maybe Josh Simmons is the answer that they've been looking for. And if they get that right, the offense, which was not very good last year, should be much better. They had, on their way to 15 wins last year, they had 6 wins that were by 3 points or less. Some of these games came down to the final play, a blocked field goal against Denver to secure a victory. I mean, all these things happened. But, you don't look back. The Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes has and Travis Kelce both have kind of, I don't know if the right word is rededicated themselves. Travis got talked to Travis's brother, Jason, a couple of weeks ago at his golf tournament. He told me when Travis first really got serious about this business, he rented a place in Boca Raton, and he had a trainer down there, and that got him into the best shape. Well, him and Taylor Swift, that is, they are renting a place in Boca Raton this offseason, and he has been training to lose weight, get faster, quicker, fast twitch. So he's rededicated himself after an off year for him. And so the Chiefs are going to be the team to beat. But we also know that Jim Harbaugh is not resting easy. I mean, he's come out and said that Justin Herbert's the best quarterback in football. They went out and drafted Omarion Hampton to be their star running back. They released and moved on from J.K. Dobbins, who had a good season, but kind of, found the injury bug again. So Omarion Hampton, you could rank these running backs coming out of the draft any way you want, but he's certainly 1, 2, or 3, and they're going to get a big back that can run. They went out and got Mekhi Becton from the Eagles to shore up the right guard spot, which was a weakness, especially in that loss to Houston, where they couldn't convert third downs. Justin Herbert was under duress. They couldn't hold up front with twist stunts and matchups with Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter and Danico Autry. They had their way with them, and it was a factor. Even in a 7-6 game in the third quarter, after jumping out to a 6-0 lead, they were terrible on third downs. 3rd and 1s, 3rd and 2s, 3rd and 4s. They couldn't convert. Couldn't win the line of scrimmage. So they will be better. And defensively, they made a marked jump a year ago. A marked jump. In fact, in that division, the Chargers were they were number 8 in defense last year. We also know that Kansas City was 11 and Denver was 7th ranked defense. And Denver was number 1 in sacks. So let's go to Denver, that finished 10-7 a year ago. And nobody could have predicted a 10-7 record with a rookie quarterback in Bo Nix. To start the season, you watch some of these games last year at the very beginning. Bo Nix had trouble getting the ball and completing a pass to a wide receiver. And by the end of the season, they were going up and down the field on people like they had to against Cleveland. But they finished number 1 in the league in sacks, I think was 63. And Vance Joseph did a great job. They went to a lot of 5-man fronts, 5-man rushes, where, Nick Benito and Jonathan Cooper and Zach Allen and, John Franklin Myers, they all had one-on-ones. And they didn't have to blitz a lot. One of those guys was winning and putting the quarterback under pressure. Of course, if you're going to have a lot of 5-man rushes, you better be able to hold up on the back end. And, of course, Patrick Surtain was the reigning defensive player of the year. And they draft Jahdae Barron, and they upgrade the safety position. And you look at this defense, and it doesn't seem to have a weakness right now. And so while the offense will continue to grow, it will continue to get better and improve, because that's what Sean Payton's offenses do. they just improve in year two. Same thing happened in New Orleans. I expect it to happen in Denver this year. They drafted R.J. Harvey out of Central Florida at running back. We'll see. We'll see who the starter is. He's going to have a committee. When they won a Super Bowl in New Orleans, they had three different running backs: Pierre Thomas, Reggie Bush. Like, they had three running backs that were rolling. So he'll do the same. He'll rotate these guys through. But the offense line returns intact, and they did a good job protecting Bo Nix. So the offensive line, one of the few teams in this league that's going to return all five starters. They should be better. Across the board, they should be better. And then we get to the Las Vegas Raiders, who were disappointing 4-13. And they've made all kinds of changes. John Spytek comes in as the new general manager. Pete Carroll comes in as the new head coach. They have a guy that has done it at the highest level, winning a national championship at USC, winning a Super Bowl at Seattle, putting together championship level defenses, giving the team an identity, giving the team a structure that they just haven't had. They kept the defensive staff, which is great, but they've got a structure now on that team of discipline, accountability, a way of doing things, the energy necessary to compete with the Chargers and the Broncos and the Chiefs. It starts with just your day-to-day energy level. Yeah, a couple guys on the team, namely Max Crosby, come to work every day with that. But Pete Carroll is going to be that guy that's going to lead them, I believe, to their best season they've had in a long time. They drafted Ashton Genty. They're going to have a run game. They brought in Geno Smith, all right, who's had 3 great years, 3 very good years in Seattle. They didn't make the playoffs last year. They made it the year before, but they won 10 games with Geno Smith at quarterback a year ago. I believe he gives the team stability. Remember, yes, I think Geno is 34, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's 34 years old right now. But he went 8 years without really playing, just being a backup and playing very little. So there was very little wear and tear on his body. But I believe that this is an offense that should improve. They should have quarterback stability, which they have not had. They've had a rotating door of quarterbacks for years now. So since Derek Carr was healthy. So I believe, like the Raiders, and they look defensively last year, they weren't bad. This is with a lot of injuries, including, Max Crosby. They still were, they were respectable in some areas against the run, 13th against the run, but not very good overall. But that should change this year. So that's the AFC West right now. I mean, I believe that, when you have 3 playoff teams with great coaches, that makes you the most competitive division in football. But then if you add Pete Carroll and bring up the rear with the Raiders, I can't see how this isn't going to be the best division in football. These division games are going to be must-see TV. Pick a spot. Denver, Kansas City. For a while, I think Patrick Mahomes won his first 15 or 16 starts against Denver. Well, that's changed. The Chargers. The Chargers in Kansas City has been a great rivalry, and it's been a great game. The Raiders and the Chiefs is a great rivalry, going back 50 years when Madden, was the coach. So I think we're going to see the return of really great divisional games. The Chiefs are the team to beat. Steve Spagnuolo is still a masterful defensive coordinator, winning 4 Super Bowls as a defensive coordinator, 1 with the Giants, 3 with the Chiefs. They're the team that everybody is looking up at. There's still a separation because of the play of Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and the competitive ability of those two. They're going to be the team to beat, but I believe the gap is closed, and I believe the Raiders will be far more competitive than they ever were a year ago. And if that's the case, the AFC West is the best division in football, and it's going to be must-see TV. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to go into depth And, when I come back on the Best Football Show, we'll go into depth each team. We'll take it team by team, and then we'll move on to the other divisions in the NFL. But I look forward in the next show, the next Best Football Show, to talk about the reigning AFC West champions and the AFC representative in Super Bowl 59, the Kansas City Chiefs. Thanks for joining me, everybody. Look forward to talking to you real soon, talking about the Chiefs and talking football as we get ready to start the 2025 season, which has teams, going to camp here in the next 2 weeks. Thanks for joining me, everybody.